Welcome back. I'm Jeanne Gallagher, founder of Discover Rising Tides, and welcome back to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better, where we explore the importance of the outdoors and maintaining life balance. And we're talking with Denise Stegall, healthy living coach and international best-selling author of Healthy Living, Happy Life, a practical path to finding a healthy lifestyle that works for you, and curator of healthy, oh, good Lord, Healthy Living, Healthy List. I got it.
Living healthy list.
Okay, so let's get started because today's topic is all about my world and being outside in nature.
I am so excited about this talk. I'm so excited. I'm thinking I'm out in nature. I'm the leopard out in nature, like enjoying the wild. Okay, so wild outside my window. I'm in Minnesota today, so we got some wildness here. We got some beautiful foliage. Being outside, no matter what time of year, is amazing. So, where are you today, Jeanne?
So today being outside is really, well, let me tell you about the other morning before we get to the outside part, because it was still dark and you're talking about being outside and animals. The coyotes were singing at,
Ooh.
I don't know, 4:30 in the morning, which usually you hear them later in the afternoon, but it was really fun to listen. And they were not that far away. I live close to a canyon. And so I know that they were probably in my neighbor's backyard, but it was just amazing to listen to that, and kind of creepy because it was still pitch black dark out, but yes.
Well, at least the good thing is you were inside, not
Yeah,
outside where the
exactly.
coyotes.
Well, I thought about that as I was supposed to be hauling the garbage out to the front, out to the main road. I thought I might wait a moment or two.
Yeah, maybe that's another conversation. There is a good time to be outdoors and maybe not such a good time to be outdoors. We're
Yeah,
talking about the good
exactly.
times though. So it's interesting, this time of year, it's fall. And so, as the year goes on and it's starting to the sun's coming up later in the morning, I notice that I'm sleeping a little bit later. Whereas in the summertime, I'm one of those, as soon as the sun comes up, I'm awake. And so in the summertime, I'm awake like super duper early. I probably would have been awake with the coyotes. But this time of year, it's starting to get a little bit later. And that's always an interesting thing because like I don't want to have to wake up with an alarm clock. So I kind of change my schedule so I can wake up with the sun. So we're going to talk a little bit about sunlight and how that helps with energy. Like I said, a lot of people wake up with the sun. I am absolutely one of those people. In the deep darkness of winter, I might be sleeping till 8 o'clock in the morning. And as a business person, people are like, oh my God, how can you sleep that late? But it ebbs and flows. And I think that's kind of an important piece of life. And in nature ebbs and flows. And I think we need to really follow that a little bit more. And we'll talk a little bit about that ebb and flow in a few minutes. So what I love about being out in nature, especially in the morning as the sun is coming up over the horizon, it's such a great time to go outside. You don't need your sunglasses, at least not yet. So you can go out there and get all of the benefits of the sun. Basically, the sun coming up, it gives you energy, it gives you motivation, but it also helps you to actually sleep better later on in the day. Why? It helps with your circadian rhythms. So being outside in the sun is beneficial in so many different ways. What's your favorite time of day to be outside, Jeanne?
I love the mornings. I love to be out. The birds are singing. And if I'm by the water, especially the ocean, it's really calm in the morning and the water is really sparkly. It looks like diamonds on the water. And that is one of my most favorite times year round, in the morning. And sitting outside, having a cup of coffee and reading a book before I start the day is one of my favorite ways to get that going.
I agree. It's one of my favorite things to do in the morning also is to do a little bit of meditation outside. It's so different than in when the weather's cooler okay, I'm in Minnesota a lot. So if it's cooler, I do my meditations inside. When I can be outside and do my meditations, and they're short, 5 minutes, 12 minutes, they're not very long. But what I notice is, again, the energy around those meditations is so different when I'm outside in the sun. Just the energy, the vibration that the sun gives out, I can feel it in my body. You can feel the warmth when the sun comes around. You can just feel that warming your whole body. And that energy, that kind of energy gets us moving. It really energizes us in so many different ways. It's motivational, it's creativity, all of those things that as entrepreneurs and business owners, or business women and a few smart men, we really need to keep on top of our game if we're going to continue to be successful, whatever that means to each one of us. We need to continue to be creative. We need to continue to be motivated. And sometimes the motivation is, sometimes we even need to pivot. And when you're spending the time in the sun and you can feel that energy, those type of decisions come so much easier than if you're sitting inside in under artificial light. The artificial light it can be really depressing. It can actually be very tiring and unmotivating, because if you're inside all day, think of in a school, with those horrible lights that they have, fluorescent lights. Couldn't think of them. Fluorescent lights, like, think about, back in the day when you're in school, by like 11 o'clock, you're just like, oh my God, I have to go to school till 3 o'clock. And it was just, and I don't think we understood back then the importance of the sunlight, how it keeps us motivated, keeps us energized, and really moving forward. I mean, schools are dark. A lot of office buildings can be really dark. And then they have this fluorescent light, which is just incredibly bright, but unnatural. And our brain knows the difference.
And it's easy to say in the summertime when the weather's nice, yes, I'm going to go outside in the morning and have a cup of coffee and enjoy the world waking up and the birds waking up. But it's harder to do that as the seasons change. And I have been laughed at a couple of times because I might be sitting on the back porch wrapped in a blanket with my winter coat on. And maybe I'm a little cold, but I still need that. And you notice when it's a rainy day, or if you had a few rainy days in a row and you haven't been outside to get that morning sun, how internally sad you can feel, or unmotivated.
Yeah, I think the motivation is the biggest challenge. We feel unmotivated, we're tired, we just kind of feel and the longer we do that, it really starts to get into a really negative cycle. So what I really love to do is, I have in my calendar, I'm a big fan of calendar management. I actually have it in my calendar every morning to go sit outside for 5 minutes. And I've been known to sit outside at 8 o'clock in the morning with the fire table on. It is what it is. Now, I will be the first person to admit, if it's minus 30, I'm not going out.
Right. Well, there are some exceptions.
But what I might do is I might get in the car and take a drive in the morning. Might go over to my trail. There are so many, we come up with so many excuses not to do something. And when it's minus 30, let me tell you, there are a lot of excuses to stay in bed. And again, that's about motivation, and by putting it on my calendar, just saying, go look at the sun. If it's on my calendar, it happens. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So, other benefits of the sun, obviously vitamin D. It is the number one best way to get your vitamin D. And the estheticians that are going to be listening and you're going to freak out here. When you go out in the morning, no sunglasses, no sunscreen. Your body needs to absorb the sun so it can actually absorb and metabolize vitamin D. So often we go out slathered, and you see how pale I am. My husband's a redhead, so yes, we spend, we when we're outside, we most of the for a extended period of time, we have a lot of sunscreen on. But if we did that all the time, we would never get the benefit of the vitamin D. So this is something to do in the morning when the sun's not so strong. And you can, if you're only going to be out for 10, 15 minutes and to get that benefit, you don't need much more than that to get the benefit of the sunlight that early in the morning.
So thank you. This is, I think that before we wrap this up, actually, let me just say one other thing about the vitamin D piece. And we've talked about you've heard people talking about health, and especially with COVID and staying healthy. And I think through this whole conversation, unfortunately, the medical field wasn't having these conversations during COVID, now afterwards, but I think everybody needs to realize how important, or has realized how important, exposure to vitamin D is, and to our continued daily health. So having you bring up this topic is so important. And the circadian rhythm is also important too, because once we disrupt our sleep patterns, how we sleep and the quality of sleep that we have really affects our internal and our external health too. So thank you very much for bringing this topic up. And as people are listening, if they want to hear more or they need more suggestions, I implore them to reach out to you and have those continued conversations.
Fabulous. I think this is such a great topic. It's something that will bring us all from, the stress and whatever we've got going on to being successful in our physical, professional, and personal lives. And that's what we're looking for in these conversations, is to help you to people to reach those goals.
Thanks, Denise.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter? How does that apply to me? How do I change? What do I need to do? How do I even create a healthy living shopping list? Make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach. And you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeanne Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm excited to introduce to you Michelle Howe. Hey, Michelle.
Hello. Hi, Jeannie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here. And Michelle, before we get started, can you give us a quick little bio and background, and then we can just dive in?
Geez, a bio and a background.
Or something maybe together. We'll get into the background piece.
Yeah. Founder and president of Empath Evolution. Been doing that for the last 10 plus years. Before that, accountant, CPA, mother of 3 children, live in Central New York, loving life, and looking forward to all the great things that are happening and that are possible for us. So
that's fantastic. And there's so much to talk about there. And what's interesting before we start is you are the second person that I've talked to recently that started as a CPA and is doing something a little on the touchy-feely side, which is fantastic, but it's an interesting correlation that has happened twice. So there's something to that. But tell us, starting as a CPA, and we're going to talk about what an empath is, but I'd like to know how your transition happened and what brought you to the other side.
I love the way
the other side. You jumped the shark.
I think I've always been who I am, but and I don't know if it's the other side. It's just that I leaned into and started to see more of who I was So I went into accounting because I'm very logical and I love puzzles. And my mother did all these books, and I'm like, "Ooh, this is so interesting, Mom." And I could put things together and did really well. Always very analytical though, which helps you be an accountant.
Mhm.
And but also very analytical and introspective about people. I loved studying people. It's just what I did. It was fun. And then, of course, when I went to college, I'm like, well, maybe I should take a psychology course. Maybe that is really where I should be leaning into, because it was always personal development. It was always a little outside the box. And I took a psychology course and I was like, this is not accurate. Like, none of this that you're saying to me makes sense to the way that I see when I look at people.
Mhm.
So I'm like, and I didn't do well at it. Maybe that was like I'm like, nope, none of this psychology stuff is accurate. No. So accounting made sense to me. Debits, credits, even everything is not everything makes sense. But when I went into accounting, I was not the traditional accountant / CPA. I always liked looking deeper at the numbers. What is the story? What's going on? How do we improve? So I was more, and I ended up working with entrepreneurs and good at it. I liked it. It was great. Everything seemed fine. But then, I have 3 children. I had my children one at a time. And all of a sudden I started like going to work was actually like a relief from having my 3 children, because they were a lot of work, right? Going to work was very assembled, organized. I could,
There's nothing logical and assembled and organized about 3 kids.
no, there wasn't. And some of the partners there at one of the meetings, they kind of made reference to me being home and everything being so easy for me because I worked part-time at one point. And I remember looking at them and going, "You have no idea, do you?" I said, "This is my break when I come to work. When I'm home, I work much harder than when I go to work." So they were kind of shocked at that.
Said
But
every working parent ever.
I know. So then nearing when I turned around 40, I started to, I don't want to say I had anxiety and different things around that time. And I could never pinpoint why I was anxious. But I'm like, because I would do all of the right things, but I was always a little bit like get tired, little anxiety when I woke up. I'm like, I don't know, this is just me. I've always been this way, right?
Mhm.
I could read people. That was the one thing and I could understand people, and I enjoyed some people a lot. And other people, I'm like, no, not them. We're not talking to them. I'm like, and that was just like my inner dialogue. And I could foresee different happenings, whether it was my grandmother dying or whatever. And my husband would say to me, I'd go to a conference. People would tell me their deepest stories. They would just tell me. And my husband's like, I think there's something wrong with you. Why is this happening? And I'm like, it's okay. I don't really mind. It's fine. I love deeper conversations with people. That's just who I am. So, nearing when I got around 40, I did have like my nice little neat little life didn't feel so nice and neat anymore. And I didn't quite understand why. And, it's a huge, long, convoluted story. But basically, I was feeling a lot of emotions. There were different people coming into our life. I felt like I was like happy, happy, happy. And then, oh, what just happened? Like I was deviating and shifting away from what my life normally would have been. And I was loving it, but then I was confused by it as well.
I
So
think a lot of people can
relate.
identify with those feelings. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know where it was coming from. I've always been pretty level about who I am and what I do and how I function. But this scenario that was in our life, I was like it was over my head. I didn't understand myself. I didn't understand what I was feeling, what was happening. I was great. I loved it. And then, oh, what are all these emotions? I'm like, so long story short, I like always prided myself on being able to see the big picture around what's going on because of course, I'm people, right? But the scenario it just caught me by surprise. It caught me, it grabbed me. I went through what I call now like a dark night of the soul because I didn't understand. And I remember thinking at one point, I'm like, is there some book that I didn't read that when I was growing up that would explain to me why my life feels slightly out of control? I feel angry at what's happening. I don't understand it. Who is Michelle? Where's Michelle? Like I wouldn't, my behavior was very odd for me. Like just could not explain it. Was not logical, right? So I'm like, So that's when I went to therapy. And I remember looking at the lady after 6 months. I'm like, you're great, but I can psychoanalyze you. Like whatever you're telling me makes no sense over what I've just been through. And then I just systematically, this is what I do. I lift over every rock to find what the answer is because I'm pretty smart. So in lifting over every rock, I ran into writing from Judith Orloff, highly sensitive. And I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, definitely. I feel emotions. I'm like, and mind you, I married my husband because at the time, every other man I would date had so many emotions that they would just blah, 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 blah. Oh my God. I'm like, I can't. I'm like,
stop talking to me.
I'm like, I need a man. I said, I have enough emotions. I want a man that's not going to come at me with all these things all the time because that extra stimulation, I didn't appreciate it. I'm like, I have enough emotions for you and me. I don't need your emotions too. So we joke that he doesn't have any emotions. He has very grounded, confident.
Subdued.
Yeah. So when where was I? I was at finding the answer, sensitivity. I'm like, yeah, sort of. And then I ran into the 30 traits of an empath. And I'm reading this list and I've got the whole 30 traits I can give away at some point. I'm like, damn. I'm like, I got almost every one of these things. Okay, I sort of get it. And then I've always been a little bit outside the box. I believe in I was always interested in so many things, but psychology, astrology, spirituality, huge. I always just was naturally gravitated towards it. I went to a lady and I'm, still riveting over my experience that made no sense to me. How dare something hit me but like a 2x4, right? And the lady goes, you can't hide your light under the bushel, Michelle. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she goes, well, all of this happened because, it needed to happen and you need to grow from this. And you are very empathic. You're able to uplift and shift and empower people. That's who you are. And I'm like, that's not logical, but that certainly answers for some of the reasons, some of the ways that people react and respond to me. So it took me, mind you, a couple years. And she gave me the whole backstory of why and who and what was what. And her explanation, which was all esoteric, spiritual, made a heck of a lot more sense than anything I got from my therapist.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh my gosh, it was someone took a brick and hit me. I'm like, this is why I feel the way that I feel.
And that's so validating for you too. You're okay.
This was not something I imagined. These were real, and this is what happened. And this is why. And it validated everything. I'm like,
And if you weren't as curious as you were and willing to search for what internally you were probably, maybe, I don't putting words in your mouth, but being more stubborn about everything because it wasn't logical, right? But if you, with your curiosity, you were able to really glean out the important parts, and they just showed up right in your face.
there was a reason, a rhyme and a reason for everything that happened. I didn't make it up. There were, it was all like laid out in front of me. And mind you, I don't know if I would have looked under any of these rocks if I hadn't been jolted the way I was jolted.
Yeah.
So
what is an empath for people that don't know?
Should I give you the more esoteric definition, or should I give you the
Maybe a little bit of both.
The logical definition is, people think that they're empathic, they care. There's plenty of people that care in the world and that feel, and they're intuitive, right? And they're wonderful people. We love them. And then there is the person that you go to for advice. The person, you're not feeling well, they uplift you. The person that doesn't judge you when you're talking to them. The person that people just gravitate to. They like, and essentially an empath is a healer in a sense. They're able to help another person shift, heal, release, shift up. I'll give you an example. Like when I was going through my tough days, I had several friends, right? Only a few that I share this with, because most would not have understood it, right? There are certain people, like if I called one girlfriend and I told her what was going on, if I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, if I'm feeling I'm down, right? I'm a 5 or 4. If I call her on the phone and tell her and share with her, I'm now at a 3 or a 2. Like, because she is not able to really uplift me with what she says, I feel worse by sharing things with her.
Interesting.
Right.
You feel worse.
I feel worse because she's feeling sorry for me. She's telling me how dangerous it is.
So you're pulling in her feelings of you, and you're getting a double whammy.
I'm pulling in who she is and how she perceives the world. And when she perceives me in such a horrible, if she perceives my situation and doesn't see the validity, the greatness of it, if she's like, I don't, think about it. You're a person that's struggling and you need someone that's going to help you lighten what that is. If you've got someone who only sees the darkness and the negative or the heaviness of what you're doing and tells you, shames you, or like I'm pulling in who she is, her perception of my experience through her, here's my language, through her filter, like her filter, the way she lives her life, the way she's not an empowered, uplifting person. She's just a person doing her best, right? And living her life. But she doesn't have anything to add. So when I look at empaths and empathic people out there, we all hold a certain field of who we are. And we're either ideally we have neutral relationships with people. They're not yanking us up or down, right? Because you're holding who you are. But if you're around someone negative, you can hold up who you are for maybe 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. Try spending an hour with them. Try spending 2 hours with them. See how you feel when you're done with them. And the important part of the sentence is feeling, because most people will dumb down and avoid and disregard feeling. Society as a whole doesn't want to know, doesn't want to handle feeling. They only want to feel good. So when they don't feel good, or when we don't feel good, here come the drugs, here come the prescriptions, we're looking to not feel like, but when you are empathic, feeling is one of the top things that you do. That's how you navigate the world. So you can't avoid, if something is toxic, you can't lie to yourself about it. It's like who you are. So that whatever is going on around you is somewhat amplified, because that's your number one way of relating to the world.
Do you have to be careful that you don't absorb their energy?
I'm going to answer this carefully. We, as empaths, we tend to attract people that are wounded, that need help. It happens all the time. A lot of psychologists are empath, a lot of human resource people, because we're listening, we're empathizing, we are understanding, we're open to that, right? Do I need to protect myself so I don't absorb? You need to become more solid in who you are, so that whatever is coming your way, it's not going far. It's not going deep. You're strong enough to manage what it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I when I changed how I operated my financial services side of myself and allowed myself to come into my business versus what the industry expects.
Right.
Everything changed for me.
Right.
Because I wanted to give space to people to understand and hear their story. Because that's really everything. And I can appreciate people tell me all kinds of things. All I have to do is ask a few questions. And my husband and I were someplace yesterday, and we were, doesn't matter what we were doing. We were just out, and we had to go meet somebody we didn't know. And we were checking out a truck, actually. And so the mother of the truck owner was there, and I can tell you quite a bit. And we were there for 15 minutes. I just looked at her.
It's like they see a green light, and they just
Yeah.
And what they're feeling is that you're very, here's the esoteric and the spiritual. You're very connected to spirit. You're a safe person. They can share, they can vet, they can
Without judgment. They can share without judgment.
And they leave more calm, more relaxed, more it's like they opened right up and shared that. Now, if you are judging her while she's talking, or if you have similar wounds, like she's activating some things in you that are pains of yours, you're going to suck that up, and it's going to activate it almost like electric, like it's it'll pulse harder. Like that's why certain interactions are harder, because we have conscious and we have subconscious, we have unconscious things that we hold. And if you're holding that, you're not in a neutral place, because that energy is going to come towards you. It's not going to go deep unless you've got something that's
something that it connects to.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So I have an observation. I didn't expect this observation, so I'm just going to toss it out there. So the logical piece of your life actually connects to what you're doing right now. Something that you said that really that I identify with as well is puzzles. And if you're dealing with numbers and spreadsheets, it's a puzzle, especially when you're trying to figure out where something's missing, something's not right, aligning it up, making sure each line equals as it's supposed to. But in the situation that you're in, it is a puzzle to figure out where people are coming from and where they need to go, and how can you lift them and help them. An interesting correlation.
That's a great correlation. To me, it's what makes it intriguing and fun. Like, because, a lot of times we don't really understand all aspects of ourselves, why we do things we don't. And if, coaches do this at times. If you're introspective and you're willing to see and listen to another person, you'll be able to see things that they may not see because it's coming. Like you're the observer. You can see it easier.
Impartial.
Yeah.
So tell me, how do you help people? What does that look like? And who are the people that you're drawn to or that are drawn to you?
People that are drawn to me are just like me. They're just like me, meaning that they maybe did not recognize they were empathic and they've gotten slap, they're struggling in some way with something. Sometimes it's a death. Sometimes it's, I just don't understand myself. I don't feel like I fit. My emotions are different. I handle my relationships oddly at times, like, because you can really lose yourself as an empath. So your behaviors become a little different and it's unconscious. Like you don't always know why you feel the way you feel, but you feel, right? A lot of times we finally realize that I lost myself in whatever this marriage is, this relationship is. I want to come back to who I am and understand my world, like become more empowered in that regard. And how I help them really, it's either mentorship or a group program that we'll do together. And if we have the privilege of working through one-on-one, it's what do they need? I look at what do they need? I kind of follow the process of where we're being led. I have a process and a framework of what I want to hit. But basically, I leave that open-ended enough that it's got to work within what they're dealing with, what's in front of them. So it's like real life shifting as life is happening. And it is energetic. That's the part that's that's the woo-woo part. It's intellectual in that I'm teaching or guiding or acknowledging or being with you on things, empathizing, right? But it's energetic because I've worked and I've established and I can hold such great energy that I'm uplifting and I'm activating what their potential really is. So that's what I do.
And so tell me more about your program, first of all, and then I have a question and hope I don't forget. So tell me about the program first.
So mentorship is mentorship. I follow where I'm guided, but it always works at activate, integrate, embody, those 3 stages. So basically I'm helping you rewrite, look at whatever charged emotions or pain or distortions you're holding from your past. Like, what is your storyline? We can get really stuck in what that is, and it can create a reality that we really don't want. Like, because we are programmed from we're very young, whether it's our parents, whether it's society, whether it's how we're going to fit in. We've got all these ideas and thoughts, and some serve us and some do not. So we're looking at all of that, and then I'm giving you a sampling of how are you going to activate and trust? What does it feel like? How do you connect? How do you trust what empathy is? What your other gifts are? Because there's other gifts that come with this. When you start really opening up, you can see that. And when you start to learn how you're going to shift what you want, what feels right, what doesn't. And the last stage is just to really get you even more strong in that regard. And it's important throughout the whole process is you're understanding yourself, but in the process of understanding yourself, you're learning about other people.
So in what way?
Why people do the things that they do. What people's behavior says or doesn't say. Like you're becoming this mini version of a very enlightened. Like you're not going to take you can hold, you can mentor, you can be the example for the other person. So you shift in countless ways. That's what I do.
And your program is called?
Expansion to Joy.
Okay. And so, what would trigger somebody? Trigger is probably not a soft word, but it doesn't matter. We're going to use it anyways. What would trigger somebody to say, I need to talk to Michelle and her expansion to joy program, what would be some of the things that people should recognize with themselves that they might need to talk with you?
I would say if
I am feeling ... or
Oh.
I wish I could feel ... or
I just don't feel like I feel very empty. And why? I've attracted all these things all these years. I've attracted narcissists. Why? How do I stop continuing on as a pattern in my life? I want to stop feeling drained. And where do I want to become more of who I am. I want to trust myself more instead of judging what this is or isn't. I want to become more of me, like that person. I wanted to be more confident in what's happening.
Feeling like some of yourself is lost.
Oh my gosh, that's a huge part because it's easy to do. Or why do I feel insecure? Why do I feel like that's right? I've been in an emotional roller coaster. Or I drink. Why do I drink? I drink to numb. Well, I can't handle what the heck is going on around me. This needs to stop. Drinking is not healthy for me. Like, I'm not helping you stop the drinking. I'm basically helping you get more in touch with what your feelings are so you can stop stuffing them away. Like, and start using that as a superpower for yourself. Period.
Avoidance comes to mind for me, and avoiding how you're feeling.
Lying.
And
Sorry.
No.
Lying to yourself. How many times? Because we like to see the best and we like to stay where we are, and we don't want to change, and we don't want to think bad of things. We will make ourselves wrong before we will actually step into that power position of where we are. So
something that just came to mind too is for me, or noticing this crazy world of social media and what the socials do for us. And that is in itself a numbing process. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but I'm going to toss it out there. When you just pick up your phone because you just feel like you need to zone out for a minute. And 10 years ago, we never did this. We might have sat with our feelings so much more thoroughly than we don't have to sit with our feelings today. We can just pick up our phone and they just go away.
that is the sad truth. Yes. I didn't think of that. Or because we all do it to a certain extent. Well, it's a
I catch myself. I'm like, what the hell is this thing in my hand?
It's a complete distraction from living our lives and being more engaged and involved and active in what's happening. But I don't know how it's like sugar. It's like a cookie. It's like all these things that are not necessarily good for us are part of the equation here. And, I need a dopamine hit. Let me do this. Let me do that. What I see is, I was just talking to a client today. She goes, yeah, the world is on a hamster wheel. That's what we're on. We're on hamster wheels. Put your head down. Do your hamster wheel. She goes, Michelle, and mind you, she has her own engineering firm now. She does really well. She goes, my empathic nature was never seen as an asset. I was different. I was too independent. I didn't follow. I was too, she just, and I think that's somewhat of a threat to the establishment of the black and white thinking of what they already have in the world, and her caring or wanting to do things in a different way. So I think it's hysterical because she's now, and we worked on, it's so funny. She came to me because she's an entrepreneur. Has big goals. She sees herself as purposeful. She wants to help the world, and she's got so much knowledge, right? But she goes, these leadership programs out there are missing something, because I am very empathic and I can't stay in these meetings for very long. They are horrible. I see people on hamster wheels doing what's expected of them, doing it and thinking that that's okay. Like they're not thinking outside that box. They're not
Mhm.
being who they are. They're just being little replicas to be safe in the world,
Mhm.
to provide, to have some security. And she doesn't think in any of those boxes. She's able to really open things up. And her business just skyrocketed. I'm like, you work on who you are. And, she's taken her own road and
Mhm.
she's getting huge payoffs from doing
Mm.
that.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. And so the work that you do is so important, and it can be heavy, and there's responsibility and that comes along with that. But how do you take care of yourself so that you can show up for others?
That's a really good question. It's a really good
Thank you
question.
very much.
Oh my gosh, it's a really good question. Well, I have to say, I'm learning to be a little bit more, I'm so business focused. And I think sometimes this has been like a coping. I'm so passionate and I still want to see
Mhm.
something happen that unlike many entrepreneurs, I'm so driven that
Mhm.
I work and I work and I work. And, that's great, but my body needs to move.
Mhm.
I can't be just running upstairs and grabbing something quick to eat. It should be thought through so it's nutritious, right?
Mhm.
And there needs to be a balance of what I'm doing with my family and the people that I love.
Mhm.
So in bringing those things into the mix, actually pausing on these things are important to me. These things I need to be in balance. There was a time when I first started, I was so into the spiritual, so into the healing. And I loved it. And it's almost like that it was taking up so much room in my brain that there
Mhm.
wasn't enough room for the other stuff. And thankfully, I've come back to center a little bit more so that
Mhm.
I'm able to really bring it all together in a grounded way. So the number one thing I do is try to use my gifts, use the tools that I have that are a little different, but they work for me. Second thing I do is pause,
Mm.
try to get my mind to stop. It has to stop. And to appreciate where I'm at and what's going right. Because at the end of the day, it's a lot of what we struggle with is coded in us. Like, you should be thinking this way. You should need this. You really not need that. Oh, life is just a drudgery. Or, so there is that mental piece, but then there also is what do you bring? How do you see life? How do you see others? Because life is a mirror. Like you're going to attract who you are right front and center. So I'm still a work in progress. It's never going to end. Right. And I love the discovery part of it. And certainly there's been points that it's frustrating. I've been frustrated. I'm like, why? Do I keep doing this, and this? And it doesn't feel good. And how do I change that? And just being curious about that. And actually, to my surprise, people in the world are good. There's good people in the world. There's a lot of good people in the world. And there's a lot of them that are empathic and they are like willing and able to help you from where you are to where you're going. So, like, my big goal is to elevate 3 million empaths to become the leaders of tomorrow. It's a lofty goal, but they're already there. They just don't even know they're empaths, right? So, what if they figured out, oh, empathy is a superpower? How do I use this
Mm.
a bit different without, feeling drained or feeling needing to isolate, needing to step away? Like, what can I do in my position as a leader with a little bit more skill at what empathy can do and does?
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's sky's the limit.
And empower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Michelle, it's been a pleasure. Such a pleasure to talk with you. And how do people find you?
Empathevolution.com
Mhm.
is my website. That's the quickest, easiest way. You can also email me, Michelle with 2 L's, at empathevolution.com.
And before we go, I wanted to touch you had mentioned this too. You also have a quiz on your website. Is that correct?
I do. I
Okay.
do.
And is it easy to find? Sure it is, but
Right on the front page. Yep.
perfect. So if anybody would like to even have an idea if what they have going on and Michelle can give them a hand, take a quick look at the quiz, reach out to Michelle. And Michelle, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here and just share with everybody.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.